Hello, hello, hello. OMG. Oh, OMG. Let me just turn on some music. Let's see. Oh, just coming from a discussion with my partner. It's like it's so nice. It's getting so much better now with the kids. Like this morning was the first morning in like 2 years where both of us were just sitting on the couch drinking coffee in the morning, just observing the kids, just eating breakfast and having a good time. And then let's see, I'm just going to yeah, and then we're getting to Oscar's nap time, which is like a couple of hours where, like, for me, top priority is like that's when we do what we want to do. I don't care what other plans we have or things we have to do. I just don't care. This is holy. But my partner had some other expectations. So yeah, I was kind of pumped for these hopefully 2 hours, but now it's with a bitter, what's it called? Yeah. Anyways, let's try to get past that. Yes, because I've been working on the create a GQL API, and I discovered that I had to do it a little bit differently, because currently you create the API first, and then you create queries out of that. The problem is that now you're hard coding the queries to this way of like doing the effect of requests and subscription stuff. But it has to be the other way around. You have to create queries, and then you pass in how to actually perform those queries, so that you can change the implementation. Like, you can have the same queries, but you can change the implementation, and that's important for testing and stuff. So that was just my bad. But I'm doing something wrong. So what do I actually want to do here? I have this requester, and this requester is a function that takes yeah, I'm trying to understand what I've created there. So a requester or create requester takes a requester. Oh no. Oh, I think that's what I'm doing wrong. Yeah, exactly. So I've been changing out. So one thing is the requester itself. But here we're not actually returning a requester. The requester is the callback. Do we even need like create requester? That doesn't make any sense. Yeah, I think that's what I did wrong. We shouldn't create. Yeah, that's what I did wrong. Let's see. Let's bring up another terminal here. So we shouldn't actually create a requester. We just say requester is a requester, which receives query. Yeah, here we go. And then this is, yeah, but there's something wrong with the typing. Fuck. Anyways, so the requester is just a function that makes the request. So it gets the query as a string. Wait a minute, what the hell have I done here? No, it gets, okay, sorry. So it gets the query as a string and it gets the variables and then it makes the request. That's what it does. Oh, did I change it the wrong place? Oh, sorry. Requester takes a string. There we go. This is just a string and then it returns something. Yeah, this doesn't matter. Well, why isn't this typed correctly? That's my question. Maybe I actually have an issue with the typing. Yeah. Okay, cool. So now we have the requester, and then we would have the same for subscriber. Yeah. So this takes, yeah. No, yeah, this is exactly how it should be. So what the hell is happening here? Why is, when we're resolving the query, root query type, the response isn't correct anymore. So I broke something. So one thing I did change here. I'm very curious, like how did that suddenly start happening? How did that suddenly start happening? By the way, I'm going to async function test. It's just easier this way. Yeah, so I don't understand why I got all of those things. It's almost like when it's resolving the query definition, it hits sandbox first. And sandbox is a list query. Sorry, not a list query. It's a resolve query. It's so it goes down here. It doesn't extend list query. It extends field query. Oh, and then we just say queue. Okay, that's the problem. So, oh, but why aren't I? Oh, I'm actually not handling this at all. So the thing is, if it's an object, it needs to be resolved again. That's the thing. So if queue, okay, extends record string unknown, it means that we actually want to resolve that query. Well, what we can do is we can see if it extends query definitions. If it does, we want to resolve that query by saying, what do we want to say? Well, this is the wait a minute, there's something wrong here. Yeah, this is wrong. So it should be alias here. Wait, what? UT. Oh, sorry. Yeah, this is the lookup. This is kind of confusing. So we're checking if okay, you know what? We're going to do the other one first because this is very confusing. So we're down here, we got the field query, but we don't know if this is something that needs to be further resolved. So that means if it extends query definitions, we say resolve query like that, I think, or we'll actually have Q there. So that means this one should work now. I don't need to look at that. No, it doesn't. Oh, sorry, it's not a field. Sorry, it's the same for, it was a list query. So if UK TK extends list query definition, which it does, and UK extends list query. Okay, I'm confused. It's almost like it doesn't hit this thing. So let's just look at Sandbox, because I am confused. Let's see, Sandbox. Yeah, so it's not a list query definition because it returns a single sandbox. Yeah, sorry, I'm confused. So it definitely is a field. What is a field query? Oh, wait a minute. Oh, I'm messing up the terms here. Because this is really about us. We're doing... Oh, I see what I'm doing here. I'm using the wrong terminology. Like, this isn't a list query. It doesn't necessarily return an array. So I kind of assume that if you have... Yeah, I assumed if you have a tuple, it will always return a list, but that's not actually true. Damn. Fuck. So what's the difference? It's basically a field query or an object query, where an object query can be an array or is not necessarily an array. Fudge. Fuck. I'm not in a good mood. Fuck. I'm kind of tired of not being in a good mood. Like, I'm generally in a good mood, but I often get in a bad mood. And I'm tired of like getting into bad mood because I'm really in a good mood. And then there's like these small episodes that just it's so annoying. And when I now try to work on complex stuff, I get even more upset instead of like taking it as a challenge, and it's very annoying. By the way, I'm constantly being disconnected here. So let's just close this one. So how should we solve this? So this isn't necessarily an array, and it shouldn't be called list query because it's not necessarily a list query. The first, we just have to rename this. Let's start doing that. So that's more like so field query is when you only have so we can call this an object query. Change all occurrences. Oh, fuck. Oh, wait. List query definition. Wait, where do I use? What's the difference between yeah, I'm just confused by the terms. I should have chosen different terms. So this is actually used in the actual typing. Yeah, so this just says that it's an array. But we do have list query definition. Yeah, and again, I'm stating that so what the hell? So I am extending, oh, for fuck's sake. So I'm extending list query definition, but it's not an array that I get back. So then I go and I check. Oh, and then I go and check if it's a field query. Okay, if it's a list query definition, I guess that's the problem. This is not a list. Yeah, this is it's an object query definition. This is the one that's wrong. Okay. This should be object query definition. Because that takes like a variable, and then you have to assign the fields, which is another query definition. Okay, that should help. So when we look at this type now, we're saying we're resolving the query. This is the alias stuff. We'll take a look at that later. I go in here and I ask, is it an object query definition? And if it is, we go and check if the value is a list. And if it is a list, we go in, yeah, and we resolve that array. If it's not, we check if it's a field query, which means that it's not a... Yeah, so I want to look at the types here. Type sandbox. Oh, sorry. Sandbox. Root query type. Hello. So Sandbox is a field query. So when I go in here and try to resolve this, it hits field query. And that means yeah, and here we get the actual query. That's the any, and this is the type. And then we check. Yeah, exactly. And then we check if it extends query definitions. Oh, that's the thing. It shouldn't check that. It should just record string unknown. So if it's like an object type, yeah, and okay. It's the opposite. Yeah. I think maybe there's like a, did I create like a, no, I didn't. So if it extends a record, the actual type, the sandbox type, which it does, then we want to resolve that as a query. But if it doesn't extend like an object, then we're good. I think that's all, really. Let's see. Still resolves everything though, which is weird. Resolve query. So yeah, so this should be TK. TK extends object query definition. Why is this wrong? Object query definition. Oh. Wait, what the fuck? How did so TK extends object query definition. And then we check is a list query, is a field query. I think I have a problem here. Query definition. Yeah, because I have to, oh, sorry. This is it. So we have to take the, yeah, so if the type extends an object, we have to resolve using, yeah, exactly. So if this is an object, this type under the hood, we take this object, which is like one index in the array, and match that with the type we extracted. What the fuck? It still doesn't work. I'm so confused. Oh, did I build it? I don't think I built it. There we go. Now it's right. Okay, cool. Now I understand it better. Like, this is very complex typing, so but we have to make sure of the same here. String unknown resolve query. How will this one look? Or Q. So this will be TK. So this will be TK one Q. Yeah, that should work. Okay, I think we should comment the hell out of this. So at least it kind of makes sense. Like we check if it's an object query definition. Does the underlying type match as a list query? Yeah, because this is the problem. Like we can't use variables. So like, what the fuck is UK? We could change T here to really be like query. And then U to be like type or something. But yeah, no. Cool, but at least it's working. And we have our requester now that we can use. And the point is that you wouldn't like normally, you would create an abstraction over this. So what I would do here is that instead of like passing in the requester every time, I would create my own, well, maybe we can even use this like query. So I would kind of export that, and then I would get a query here. And that's interesting because the query is of type. Yeah, so we need to export that. So create query returns like, yeah, let's export a type for that. So well, it's interesting. Like it's kind of, I've typed, I have an issue with naming today. I've typed this requester, but this is like, this is not the requester per se. Like it's interesting. Like, no, wait, yeah, this is requester. Cause, yeah, okay. So let's just create a type. So type here would be, yeah. The tricky thing is, yeah, T extends. How would you do this? So the only thing that we really care about there is that it extends, or Like it wants a requester. That's the only thing it really cares about. T. And then we would, yeah, this won't be async, but would, yeah, so this is the tricky part. It's like I'm making a very low level implementation, but it, it's almost like there should be a factory for this. Like I think there should be a factory for this. It's just that I not been able to like conceptualize it properly. Yeah, because what we want to be able to do is with that requester, we want to be able to, yeah, we kind of want to do the opposite. This is the tricky thing. So we are creating this requester. Okay, let's try to write that function. Yeah, export function create requester. So this takes a requester, and what it returns is a function that allows you to, do we already have it? Oh, where is it? Create requester. There it is. So it takes a requester and it returns a function. And it returns a function that takes a query. And this is a query. And then yes, and then based on that query, so if the query actually has variables, then you will be asked to pass. Wait, what the fuck? So the point is, you just want to, so this would be like query, and you would say CodeSandbox. You would just give it a reference to the query. And then if it requires variables, it will be here. And then it returns the result. That's the only thing it does. Shit, we have to fix this scrolling stuff. We had a session yesterday about focusing. We're going out of beta after New Year's, and there are some quirky things in the editor still, which makes it feel like a beta product. And we need to fix those things. I'm going to write that one down, by the way. Scrolling in editor, not remembered. Address bar in preview dev tool. Cool. Let's see. Create requester. Okay, so this is where I went wrong. So create requester takes the query, but it depends. So what we need to do here, we need to say that we're taking a set of params here. And these params is based on where t is always the first. Let's see, we have to, how would we do this? Okay, I don't think that matters. So T is definitely the first one, but then we have to check. We should not return this thing. We should, it should immediately just return the return type. of t. So we're not doing this, we're just running that. And then variables would be parameters t1. Not sure why that doesn't work. One can. Oh, sorry. T1. Cool. I think that's really what the requester should be. So we do say create requester. Like so. Oh, I forgot the music. I think that's why I'm... Yes. That's what was missing. Okay. So we call it query. And then sandbox query. Okay, so there's definitely... Oh, yeah, exactly. Because this query... oh, this is interesting, because what we can do here... we could say that these two variables are hard-coded, but then you could say, like, if you want some caching logic, you could introduce your own thing here. Oh, that's interesting. Okay, but we're getting somewhere. We're getting somewhere. So this would be create requester, and then we would have yeah, and then we would have create create requester, and then yeah, we have create subscriber, and it's only it just and you might say that you should have like there's a difference between a mutation and an a query, but I'm not sure if there is. Like technically there isn't. Like both of them is just a post request. Yeah, that's something to discover. So create subscription is a little bit different. It has this thing instead. So let's fix that. Let's see. Yeah, let's just paste it here. So we have query. Yeah, it has this on message thing. Yeah, so I think we should change the order there. Well, I guess that one doesn't really care. Well, let's make it the same. And this could be void. Yeah, that's the point. Okay, but this was the wrong place. Create. Where is the create subscriber? So this would extend message unknown. Like we don't care. What's happening with my... variables, record string unknown, or void. Where does the on message come in? Oh yeah, so this should be subscribe. No. Well, will this just work? I'm calling the query. Yeah, because yeah, this is so mind-bending. Anyways, I think that will be correct. It's something that needs to be tested. But anyways, what happened here now? Why did you suddenly expect 2 arguments? Did I do something? Oh, did I? What the hell did I do? Oh. This needs to change at least. What did I do to the typing? So requester, oh, this should be void. That's weird. Was that the problem? Oh, what the hell? Create requester. Variables, record string, or void. What the hell? Why does it say that I need 2 arguments? It's void. I thought it, but it worked, but it did work. Why did it suddenly stop working? Yeah, this is a little bit weird. Because what I can do here is that I can say like if that extends record string unknown, then we'll put that in there, or there's nothing in there. Oh, I thought I could. Oh, sorry, params. This is a little bit weird, the typing, but it's because we want to dynamically. Yeah, I thought void would just fix that, but yeah, obviously it didn't. But if I were to change this now, so if I were to actually introduce an ID to the sandbox, where we say ID string, then you see it requires it. Now we have to pass. Fuck, it's not typed. Ah, that's funny. Oh, expected 1 arguments but got 2. But now it says type void is not assigned multi-type string. Okay, there's definitely something up with the typing here. What did I do? Maybe I just messed it up. It should work like this. I'm very curious why that doesn't work. Like, yeah. Expected 2 arguments. And now it says it doesn't match. Oh, sorry. Now we do actually have the ID here. Oh, but this is even worse. Why isn't it able to type void or... Oh, interesting. But this isn't because of that thing, is it? Let's just move these upstairs here. Let's move them up to the typing. So I'm saying here that I'm basically just saying that these variables can be void. And that's true, right? So when I create a query, v yeah. Or void. Wonder why. Maybe I need to extend instead. So when we do create requester, we are just, well, we are extending here, but here we are just saying requester. That doesn't make any sense. I wonder what is not extending correctly here. What is it referencing when it says type variables and variables of what? Request. Okay, request requester variables void or. Okay, so it seems to be the actual requester. It seems to be this one causing it. We don't really care that much about this typing. Wonder if we just remove this. We kind of say that it's always there. Oh, it still doesn't work. Oh, I don't think it was updated. it says the same. So it says, but I fixed that. Requester. There, it doesn't have void anymore. What? This is weird. Who is this thing saying variables void or record string? Requester. So we're saying that the query we pass in, and that's what I don't understand. It's a union. It can be either. Okay, so we are going to change this. We're going to say it can be so it can be this function or it can be this function. What did I do now? T extends. Oh, I think I know what I did wrong. So it can be either of these two types of functions, which is true. Either it has variables or it doesn't have variables. For some reason this fails now. And that's because query might, like, there's no relationship between these now, but we don't care. And it's basically the same here. Yeah, void is really tricky to understand how it affects typing. At least I find it very tricky. What the fuck? It still doesn't work? Oh. Okay, I think there's something... I think I could simplify this, because... it doesn't... Why does it say this? Property ID is missing. I thought it extended it so it wouldn't like complain about it. Yeah, I just don't understand why it cares so much. Let's bring this back. And so this didn't really work. So there's something else we should do here, I think. For some reason, it's saying that the query we pass in here is not compatible with this thing, it seems. But I don't understand how they are really related. How does it understand that? Why is there any... Yeah, I don't understand why it's complaining. It doesn't seem to be a relationship between those. How does it even understand that this? V. Yeah, it's interesting. Like, it does extend string unknown or void. So I don't understand what it's complaining about. Oh, I need some other music. What are you complaining about? So we're passing in a generic where we say request is a requester and variables is record string or void. And that's exactly what it is. Like when we do create query, we get back a request requester and variables string unknown or void. That's exactly what we get back. So why are you complaining about that? Because I'm not dictating. That's the thing that's weird. One thing is if I dictated this one, what this one should be, but this is just extracted from this thing. So that's what I'm not understanding. Request requester variables ID string is not assignable to parameter of type. Okay, so maybe does it just have to be like a generic or something? No, I truly don't understand this. It's not assignable to parameter of type requester variables. Okay, so yeah, but then I think I'm right about one thing. It's like when we create this requester, either we have okay, so I think we're going to do it a little bit differently. We're going to say export function. Oops. Export function instead. And then instead of this, we're going to return. Okay, so we have this. So we're actually going to type this explicitly. So we have a requester which can return okay, so we have one version of this where we do have variables and we have one version which does not have variables. And this one, yeah, I don't think we actually need to type this. I think maybe. Or I guess we kind of do. So here we can say to make it happy. So it might be there. So it fits with the above thing, but then we should not need to do this. Yeah, as any. Okay, maybe this works. So now we've explicitly typed that you can have variables or you don't necessarily have them. Fuck. Okay, so now we're back. I have a feeling it's... Yeah, I have a feeling if I like change to any, then it doesn't care anymore. I think I'm being too specific about this. Where is t extends? Let's try that. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, I was just it was the correct typing. It's just that I expected like string unknown, so I was specific about like string, but I can't do that. So if I do this now and remove, for fuck's sake. Why did you expect 2 arguments? There aren't any variables here. Typing is so hard. Oh, is it the order maybe? It has to be less and then more specific. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, and this should error. Great. And then if we put back ID string, yeah, now it errors because we don't actually pass the string. And now, for fuck's sake. Now this is wrong. No, expected 1 arguments. Okay, I'm definitely doing something wrong with the typing here. Oh, maybe it's this one. No. Fuck. Like I think this is one of the hardest problems is optional parameters. It's just incredibly difficult to type. But if I do give it that thing, it suddenly says expected 1 arguments but got 2. But that's not true, right? It should expect 2 arguments. Okay, so let's try just putting back what we had. So we can say any, and we can remove these ones. Maybe that's enough. Oh yeah, now we got the ID again. Okay, great. So we have ID. And if we remove the ID now, but now it's still wrong. But I can't make it optional either. Like, that's the thing. I can't make it optional. I have to check if it actually extends. Can I say like parameters from 1? Is that possible? Isn't this how I express it? I can't remember. Yeah, I don't care about that. Okay, so that one works now. But what about again adding yay, now it worked. Okay, of course this one's not happy because yeah, okay, cool. So we'll need to do the same here. Variables needs to be any. We have to do this. Oh, this is interesting. Wait a minute. Wait, this returns? Oh, I think I... Wait a minute. What the hell is going on here? Oh, I made it a function. Okay, let's do the same here. I'm confused again. Yeah, because this is just typing. Yeah. What the hell? Yeah, on message. Wait a minute. We're passing into query. Oh, wait. Yeah, I'm messing this up. So, yeah, exactly. Sorry. So here we need to have on message. Yeah, so this is also what I was missing. Parameters T1, and this should be 2. Right? Not sure why this is complaining. Must either have a tuple type. Why is that complaining? Subscribe on message variables any. Okay, I think that's more proper. It should definitely not be. Yeah, this doesn't have to be. Okay, yeah, I think. Okay. Yeah, typing is hard. But I think we're good now on the typing. So now we are actually able to create these requests. We have a generic way to create a requester and a subscriber so that we can, yeah, and we could like, yeah, it's really interesting because we've been talking about like caching and optimistic updates. And one thing is REST. Like if you want to implement optimistic updates in REST, yeah, you can like, so imagine you have like an endpoint for getting a sandbox, and then you have another endpoint. Well, I guess you have put on the same endpoint. So what you can do is that you can cache by ID, and then whenever you put or patch, yeah, it would need to follow that convention at least. You would be able to like keep optimistic updates and all that stuff. The challenge with GraphQL though is that it's not as simple limitation like the like you can query something and then mutate something on the same entity, but that wasn't what you initially queried. So I do wonder how do they approach optimistic updates in GraphQL? So as an example, like we have like a sandbox, and then you have mutation, where you can add a collaborator to a sandbox. Yeah, it's interesting. Like, how the hell would you have optimistic updates? Change sandbox invitation, create album. Yeah, just like create code comment. That's like a comment on a sandbox. And you might have a query that asks for comments on a sandbox. Yeah, how the hell would you do that? How do you even know that it's a comment? It's just a query. You don't really know from the runtime that it's a comment. It's just data. Yeah, I saw that like Urkel, they have like a normalization strategy. Urkel. Normalized caching. In GraphQL, like its name string, we create schemas that express relational nature of our data. When we create the query against a query type, we walk the graph through relational types rather than querying for normalized data. In GraphQL, creates requests a specific shape of the normalized data, view into a relational data that can be renormalized automatically. As the GraphQL works, our query may read from relational data and scalable a copy into blah 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 blah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, using the type name field. Okay, so that's how they put the type name in the runtime. Normalizing relational. Okay, so that's... Okay. That makes things a lot more complicated though. Like, cause I'm thinking that like at this low level here, there's no caching involved. It's something you would have to implement yourself in the requester. But at this point, it's just a string. do they actually include the type name? Yeah, they do that automatically, I think. Yeah, so it's actually part of the payload. So I guess they cache by response. So they don't but how do they do optimistic updates then? So this is not cache updates. Local resolvers. Whoa. Yeah, I was thinking there's a simpler way to do this. Yeah, this is another level of stuff. How would you do caching? I'm not sure if it's like I definitely see like normalizing and denormalizing is yeah. But it's like it's so complicated. Like the way I think about it is you would make a request which is normalized, and then you would have to denormalize it given the type name that you can get. So you kind of put the data where it actually belongs, but then you would have to like put it into a cache, and then you would have to subscribe to that cache. So when some other query would now go in and update that cache, all queries. Well, I guess that's, yeah, exactly. So this low level doesn't like have React hooks, and it's when you get into you get closer to React, that's when you want to do the caching. You don't want to do that in this implementation. The question is more, how do you do it? So in the hook, that's where you would actually, like you would create some kind of use query hook, which is basically this thing. But you would also have caching in there, where you would do the denormalization, you would subscribe to the cache store, which you got from a context provider, and you would subscribe to it. And then when you do use query, that query will like update again if the cache updates. But yeah, it's interesting. Like it's definitely doable, and it doesn't have to happen. It should not happen in this library. It should be part of like implementing hooks and stuff. But it's really, really interesting. No. Okay, enough reflection. I think this at least moved it to the next. Yeah, let's see if the actual response here is correct. that's still correct. That's good. Cool. I think we're going to shove this into a new version. I just assume that create mutation and create subscription works. Now the idea is really that we've been discussing a ton, like, because we at CodeSandbox we've been using external state stores or complete external state management with React, but now we took like the pendulum the complete opposite way and only embracing React. And we've had some challenges with context providers and writing code that's like having like contracts for data and application state between components. That's the thing with context providers. It's like this ghost global. It might be there, it might not be there. If it's there, it might not be in the state that you want it to be in that specific component consuming it. So we've been talking about like to actually do props passing instead of context providers, but find a better pattern to make that simpler and more predictable and easy to follow. But then you will always have a strong contract with what data and application state you're consuming, because it's always based on your props. But then you have the separation of data and application state, which is surprisingly tricky with React, because very often your application state depends on data. Just a simple thing like a reducer can't access any outside variables. Like you can give it, it can access the initial variables from its outer scope, because the reducer function itself never changes, it doesn't have a dependency array like useEffect. That doesn't work. So that's also something we have to consider if we want to have a strong separation. Hello? Ja, bare kle deg ut der. Yes.
Hei.
Nei, men hei, Ingrid. Har du det bra?
Hei. Det min igjen?
Ja.
Men hvor min igjen, Makka? Vi har ikke det. Men hvor min igjen, Makka, til Emma?
Nei, vi har ikke den. Jeg tror ikke det var med noen maske. Det var bare den buksa.
Ja, jeg fikk den i postkassa, pappa.
Stemmer det.
Hvor? Hvilken da? Makka eller den?
Den.
Hva skal du kle deg som? Men...
Skal vi se, jeg tror... Shouldn't show naked kids on they're dressing up. Just turning off the camera. Streamer, skjønner du. Og da det på video. Du må passe på, siden dere kler av dere og sånn, så må vi passe på at ikke det kommer på video.
Pappa, kan vi ikke være?
Yep.
Og jeg skal gjerne plukke en ny sang.
Å nei, du må ikke gjøre det. Det kongesang, det Friends-sangen. Har du sett Friends, eller?
Jeg trykker på den.
Ja, nei, du må ikke trykke på noe.
Jeg trykker på den.
Ja, men helst ikke gjør det. Bra.
Jeg vil ha kamera.
Hæ? Nei, Emma, vent da. Nå blir jeg stresset.
Jeg
Nå
vil ha kamera.
blir jeg stresset. Nå må dere gå og leke. Okay, we're back. Hæ? Nei, men...
Jeg sa gjør sånn. Her.
Right, let's just quickly document this. So we have create subscriber, and then we have create query, create subscription. So this is without, oh yeah, sorry, create query, create mutation, create subscription. So here we would query foo by passing in the requester. Again, this is quite low level stuff, so yeah, and this is also
Pappa, kan du lukke litt mer igjen?
mm-hmm.
Kan du lukke litt mer bak igjen?
So yeah, this is it's still like, did I even test that? So if I wanted to wait a minute, what did I actually do here? Oh, sorry. Oh, yeah, sorry, I did it the opposite way. Messing up. Query. Subscribe. So this would be query. Yeah, sorry. So this would be query foo. Yeah, sorry. So we would query bar. This would be, yeah, this is more correct. And query baz. This would be like that. And this would be query mutate something. This would be subscribe something. This is how it looks. Okay, let's update the PR. And what we're going to do, this is really cool. So we're going to start a new branch in, yeah, let me show you what we're planning on. So currently this is how our editor application looks like. We have something called Picture Client, which we've been developed as we've been developing the editor. And we've actually explored it through behind our environment interface, which we now call Legacy Picture. So, but it holds some logic that's not part of Picture Client yet. So we're going to move that into Picture Client. So anything related to Picture is consumed directly in the app. And we're going to do the same for the API. So all data fetching is going to be moved. Maybe we should just look on the right side there. So all data fetching is going to be moved behind CodeSandbox API, GQL, REST, authentication. And as you can see, we are going to see if we can rely more on props passing to create stronger contracts between components, and find a good pattern for that. And then we're going to separate data fetching from application state. But then this package needs to deal with caching and everything. And that's kind of what I'm exploring here. is there a way we can make this really, really good so we have full control on everything? Let's just merge that. Sorry. Yeah, let's publish it as well. Main. I'm just going to start the branch. I have a feeling little one is going to so npm publish. Okay, but we got a lot of stuff done now, so that's good. One thing that is really missing now is that we are generating the query from the definition every time. I believe. Let's double check that. Do we actually do that? So when in the API, when you do create query, yeah, so you see we are creating the query string down here, of course, because we need the variables, but we don't actually have to create a query string every time. We only need to create it once, and we can optimize that. Because I've been reflecting is that you shouldn't have anything dynamic in your query definition, even though it's JavaScript. And we can enforce that with some typing and some documentation. Because the dynamic part is really the variables. And then you don't have to recreate that string every time. But that's just optimization, so yeah. Okay, so let's at least create, we're going to rename this to CodeSandbox API. And then we're going to create that folder, CodeSandbox API. And then we are going to steal a ton of new file readme.md. The CodeSandbox API. Yeah, whatever. We're going to fix this when we actually release it, because this is only internal for now. TypeScript, React API. Yeah, so it's actually going to have an imperative API, and then we're going to expose hooks on top of that. What else do we need? Yeah. tsconfig. Then we had tsconfig.build dash, was it esm.json, and then we have tsconfig.build.cjs.json, which is this thing. We have a git ignore. Okay, so CodeSandbox API is going to depend on create GQL API as a dev dependency. So we could actually try doing that now. Do we have any dev dependencies? Yeah, types now. React. Okay, so let's just pair dependencies. It doesn't strictly have a pair dependency to React because you don't have to use it. So we're going to remove that for now. But we are going to, let's see. pm add create GQL. Unknown option deb. Oh. Går det bra? Gjør det? Hva er det som foregår? Hæ? Nei, vent da, dere to. Det var ikke det, Emma. Okay, let's fem på alt to. Yeah, she's not mine though. So, our daughter's friend. But yeah, and their parents know she has a tendency to pop up on the stream, so. Let's see what we were doing. Yeah, let's see if we can kind of get started with this. So the idea here, oh, this is something else. The idea here is really that you should be able to say import like low level. You should be able to say CodeSandbox API. And I think so, but you do like explicitly get sandbox and update sandbox and so on, and this will be typed. So that's like one part of the API, and then the idea is to also have a GQL part of the API, and that would actually be GQL create query, and we would have configured a requester for you. Also the subscription thing, all that is done for you. So when you create this query, we actually return the full thing with the requester, and with any caching and stuff. And I guess that's kind of where well, that's the thing. Like I don't think we should do any caching here. The thing is, we are also going to allow you to import from React. So use so these are like we've been discussing this very roughly, so I haven't really reflected on the specifics of the API, but it would be something like use sandbox, and that's really REST. So when you were to consume that in a component, so that would actually hold like the caching and everything, but here you would do sandbox and update sandbox. So this is simpler, right? Because there's no way in REST, like REST is normalized, denormalized by its very nature. So you give it an ID here, and this would just hold like a global cache for this in a context provider. And update sandbox, and this would just be a getter, like REST get, and this would be a REST patch. And I believe that's how all our APIs, REST endpoints work, which is very straightforward, right? But then you have the GQL part of this. So you should be able to say use query and create query. So I should be able to say sandbox query and say create query sandbox like this, sandbox, and I only want the author name, for example. Or like title true and author name true, something like that. And then you should be able to say const. So again, this will be a sandbox with use query, sandbox query. Yeah, and sorry. So this would have, of course, have like the query here, sandbox ID. And then as a, yeah, I'll just type it in here. The question though is, what if you want to change this? And it's interesting. I wonder if we do have. The good thing is that we can make this work just for this API. Like we don't have to put this into a library. So if I go to sandbox here, does it have like, so if I were to query sandbox ID new, oh, shouldn't be colon, should just be author name. If I run that, yeah, but if I do type name, yeah, sandbox, right? So we can actually automatically add that. That's not a problem. Which means on responses we actually get. But that the thing I don't quite understand is, since you only get the type names on the response, how can it do optimistic updates? Like you would have to know. Um, and even there, it's like, yeah, that's what I don't understand. So, for example, here we have a mutation which says add collaborator, and it is to a sandbox. So, what if you have a query of where you have the collaborators of a sandbox? So, collaborators. Can I do this? User name. Oh. Yeah, so there's no collaborators there. But what if I were to add a collaborator using this mutation? There's no information here about... oh yeah, of course. So if I would get a sandbox, I would put the collaborators into their own place, of course. Yeah, that thing is really, really interesting. I cannot imagine that being very efficient. I guess the subscription for the cache is based on like just a key. So if anything... Well, yeah, exactly. So that's... No, wait, I don't understand this, because this says nothing about doing anything with the sandbox. Like you have the sandbox ID, but you don't know that ID is related to a sandbox. So if I add that collaborator and I have a query for collaborators, that collaborator won't be added there. It just doesn't make any sense. So it rather seems to me that if we really want GraphQL to work, we should just use WebSockets. And then whenever you do a query, that is a subscription in itself. So for example, if we were then to call add collaborator, like the API would check, is anyone subscribing to this sandbox ID? And then they will get like an update on their query. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, there's something... something fishy about this. So one thing is caching. That's not a problem, because you can cache on the query itself. The query string. And the variables. Like a combination of the query string and the variables. But doing optimistic updates... But even then, even with those subscriptions and you did a mutation, you still won't have optimistic updates. I really don't understand how this is intended to work. GQL optimistic updates. It's possible to predict the most likely result of mutation before you. Comment ID, content ID. Yeah. So what I'm thinking here is that we have a benefit. We know we could drop doing this. Use query. We could rather say instead of use query, use sandbox query. And what we would do there is that we would, sorry, it would still be use query, but it will be create sandbox query. And when you do, no, we wouldn't even do that. It would just be use sandbox query. And what you would do is, since we know what mutations are related to a sandbox, we can also optimistically update it. So an example of this would be, so use sandbox query. You would pass in this query thing. So we already know the variables there. So we would already have like use sandbox and use sandbox query, where you will give it this thing, you will give it like what you want from it. So title true, for example. And the thing is that we know now what mutations can be performed on a sandbox, and now we could actually expose them here. So for example, you would have add collaborator. So now internally in this hook, we know that when we add a collaborator, like it's a first class concept, we know how to optimistically update the sandbox that is cached with that information. And if the mutation fails, we know how to remove that collaborator and so on. So I think that's really the solution here, because introducing like generic types, and it's like it's a best guess, as Apollo says. And that is a really interesting pattern. Like if people were to not use Apollo but use this create GQL thing, they would, for their app, they would actually do this. They would actually create these hook abstractions, or it could do that, and that seems way more predictable. Yeah, I think that's the solution. Now you could ask, like, what if you want to add a collaborator without asking for a sandbox? Like, are there any mutations you want to do that is not where are we here? That is not like tied to anything. Yeah, so you have like accept team invitation. Yeah, so that's like a good one. So how would you do that? Yeah. I guess you would have like a use accept team invitation. Use accept team invitation. But we're definitely onto something. And what's cool about this is that it's not complicated at all. It's just implementing the stuff. So I think I'm actually going to do that. I'm going to create a proof of concept of this. With caching, optimistic updates, and all the bells and whistles. Because the beautiful thing is that we can use this in all our applications. And we have full control. Absolute full control. And anyone else can use it as well. That's a good thing. And you don't have to run any scripts or like create GQL query documents or anything like that. You just use the hooks and you have everything you need. Hi, Bogdan. Yeah, I have, if I'm very, very lucky, I have like between about 1.5 hours for myself. And then I do the stream. But that 1.5 hour is almost up for me. But yeah, this is partly, yeah, I guess it's kind of work, but it sometimes it gets very like you would do it anyways kind of thing. It's just I guess this is kind of an open source thing, but it's more, yeah, it just becomes even more fun working on open source because you can really test out ideas in real things with like colleagues giving feedback and everything. Yeah. So I could work on open source unrelated to CodeSandbox, but it's just more fun to work on open source related to. Yeah, I'm working on the GQL thingy. And I had a discussion with Alex about the editor, about how we have like historically merged data and application state together, which makes things somewhat simpler. Like, because you just have everything there in your state store, and it's very easy to do optimistic updates and all that stuff. But there is also this school of thought where you separate data from application state, but that requires you to have like good strategies on combining that data with your application state when they are stored separately. So the good thing about application state is that it's cached by this default, right? It's persisted in memory, while data is like you have it a little bit, like you have it in the component, and as soon as the component unmounts, it's lost. And like application state, which you just move up the component tree, so you kind of keep it for as long as you need it, if that being the whole session for the user. But you wouldn't like go up and load like a sandbox at the very top in case you need it, kind of thing. I don't know if that makes sense. But the point is that data is more like about caching than kind of persisting it. Anyways, yeah, I'm not using the right terms there. We're still talking about this because it's so easy to just think about like Redux, for example. It doesn't matter if you want to track the state of a model or you want to keep the data of a sandbox. It's the exact same concept. But it has some challenges to it, especially with GraphQL, for example. It's super challenging because it's not like a specific type you put in your state store. It depends on your query. Also, it becomes much harder to like the state is always there, even when you do not need it. Yeah. And like, when do you revalidate it, and so on and so on. Anyways, so the point is that we're exploring building a CodeSandbox API package, which basically has a set of hooks exposed where I can either use the REST endpoint. Everything's typed. You just say use sandbox 1, 2, 3. You get a sandbox. It's cached by its ID, and any patch put is put behind this update sandbox with optimistic updates and everything. So this is all you have to do to consume a sandbox. You don't have to use a state store, anything like that. It's cached automatically, and so on and so on. And the thing about GraphQL is that it's so much harder to do caching because you can query anything, and mutations are completely separated from asking for data. But since we have this package, we can do the same strategy. So we can say use sandbox query. And even though the query itself is dynamic, that can still be cached. So you cache by... Yeah. And then with the variables and the query definition, that's like cached. But then any mutation that's related to a sandbox, we can expose that with the hook. And that way we have optimistic updates as well. So if you call add collaborator here, the hook is implemented in such a way that it knows that how to optimistically update the sandbox you have with that data, and also like invalidate it if the mutation fails. So you kind of put that logic in the hooks instead of having this like insane generic GQL thing. Like even here, you see in Apollo, they have like Apollo client can use this most likely result, which is interesting. And I think there are certain, yeah, it's very interesting. And there's so much configuration and stuff here, it's insane. And we don't want to expose that. We just wanted to use these hooks, and then just the caching and stuff works. But yeah, still here, like caching is a bitch. The question is really, when do you want to revalidate and stuff like that? Just the dashboard, right? You or just moving from one sandbox to another. When you move back, you really want to move back fast, right? You want that previous sandbox to be cached, but at some point it should go out of the cache. But the point is that we, instead of having a generic approach to caching and optimistic updates, we can implement exactly how we want that to work in this package, instead of implementing it for each state management in every application. That's the benefit. That's the benefit. Anyways, that was a lot of ranting. I have to go, but have a nice weekend, Bogdan. And we'll talk on Monday, and maybe I'll demo this thing on Friday. We'll see. We'll see. But yeah, Caching. Oh my god, caching. Anyways, we'll talk later.